guys, welcome back to Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys checking out today's episode. And today I'm going to make the case why you should never use or have a hotfoot in your bass boat. I've talked about this in a video before years ago. I wanted to redo this because that was like 100,000 subscribers ago, and you may have missed the video. And I'm really adamant on this about you should not have a hotfoot. I'm going to explain why and how a lot of people have a misconception that it's safer. So we're going to get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, quick reminder, if you guys are looking to stock up on some fishing line or you're ready to buy some fishing line for the spring, guys, check out the Seaguar invixz, man. This invixz is what I've been using for well over 10 years now. I absolutely love it. Super tough, crystal clear, low diameter, super sensitive, super tough, super castable. It's just the best fluorocarbon I think there is. So I'll put my Seaguar invixz link in the description of this video through my Tackle Warehouse link if you guys would like to pick up a spool. And I think you guys will really be pleased with that. And also, guys, one quick reminder, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, fishing is really good right now here in Missouri, shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Intuitive Angling with Randy Blaukat, for details on a private lesson, so appreciate that. Okay, guys, I did this quite a few years ago, and it got a lot of backlash. People say, "Oh, Randy, you don't know what you're talking about. It's safer to have two hands on a wheel, and a hotfoot is a lot safer." It ain't, guys. I can tell you right now. One of the things I can tell you about this is some of the top bass boat drivers I have ever met in my life that have been driving a bass boat forever do not use a hotfoot. Some of the people that I know that used to race boats do not use a hotfoot. I do not use a hotfoot. I've never had a hotfoot in my boat. The only times I've used hotfoots are the hotfoots that came like with the Bassmaster Classic boats that we used to have to ride in, or they provided for us, and fishing out of some friend's boat, that type of stuff. So I have used them. I've just never had one in my boat. Let me explain to you guys why you should never have a hotfoot. There's a lot of different reasons for it. First of all, I think a lot of people have this fake sense of safety that a hotfoot is somehow safer because you have two hands on the wheel. Guys, that is a non-issue. I have driven a bass boat for going on 55 years now, and I've never had, knock on wood, I've never had one incident, one wreck, never had any close calls to speak of without a hotfoot. And I've driven in some of the biggest water you'll ever be in, guys. I've been in 10-foot waves on the Great Lakes, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. I've been in some of the nastiest, roughest conditions. I've been in freaking heavy boating traffic situations. There's not a boating situation I have not been in with the standard throttle control and did just fine with it. Now so that is sort of a moot point in my opinion. There's nothing unsafe about using a throttle in one hand and your hand on your left wheel on your wheel. I think that you have more control over it and you're more responsive with the throttle. But here's the real reason. First of all, if you're a bass boat driver that fishes very much, especially competitive, you're going to be in some rough water. And I don't mean it has to be like 8-footers. I'm talking about 2 and 3 foot chop, tight together, tight, close waves, different type of boat wakes going different ways. And I don't care what bass boat that you have, if a bass boat lands flat, like it comes off a wave and lands flat, there is a tremendous impact on your spine and your cervical region of your neck from that impact. And you can look at some of the bass anglers out there that have been in a lot of rough water over the years, and they're sort of hunched over a little bit. But one of the things, and this is another reason why Rick Clunn does this just like I do. Rick doesn't use a hotfoot. When you're on a hotfoot, you're having to sit your butt down on the seat. Therefore, your back and your lower back and your spine's taking all that shock, even if you got comfortable seats or whatever. If you have a throttle, foot control throttle, you can ride on one knee. So what I do with it is I set up in my boat, I have my left foot on the floor, and I turn my leg, like this, and I set on, I don't know if you can see it very good with that, but anyway, my right leg is sitting on the seat, like almost my knees on the seat, left foot on the ground, and therefore when I'm in that rough water, I can absorb that shock with my left leg. And I can also absorb it with my right leg and my right knee that's on the seat. It is 100% smoother, guys. I don't care how rough it is. I can stand up a little bit and I can go down like this, almost like a shock absorber, that you could not do with a foot control. If you had a foot control, you cannot do that, and your back and your spine is taking the full impact of a strange hit where you land flat like that. That's the big thing with it. You can't deny that. Another thing with it, guys, is a Hotfoot is just another something that can go wrong. I hear all the time people saying, oh, my cable broke on my Hotfoot, or I had a screw come out of my Hotfoot and I didn't know what to do. Eventually, you're gonna have some problems mechanically with a Hotfoot. It's just something else that can go wrong. It's added expense to your boat. I think a Hotfoot is like, a lot of people think that that's just standard equipment with the bass boat anymore, and that's just what you do. Sort of like with the whole braided fluorocarbon. A lot of people just start out with braided fluorocarbon and they don't know that straight fluorocarbon is actually better. Same with the bass boat. A lot of people start out with the Hotfoot and they've never ran a throttle control, so they just think the Hotfoot's the way to go. But I hear all these comments when I do. It's like, Randy, you've never run big water. You know, if you're on the Great Lakes, you're going to want a Hotfoot. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. A Hotfoot safer. Guys, please. I've driven, like I said, I've driven a boat since 1975. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of days on the water in every conceivable condition, in sketchy, tight turns, you know, 6 inches of water, 10, like I said, 10-foot waves. I mean, storms, just thousands of boats on the lake. There's probably nobody watching this video, unless you've been competitively fishing for 40 years, that has driven a bass boat as much as I have. So no, you can't say that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do know what I'm talking about. But anyway, guys, here's my recommendation. If you're on the fence or you're getting a boat or something like that, just pass on the Hotfoot. There are so many advantages of fishing and driving a boat with a throttle. It's completely safe. The advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. So anyway, send me some comments, let me know. We'll talk later.